Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, Minister of Finance Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam gives indication that the mid-year budget review will focus on measures that will promote growth of the economy and tighten expenditure.
Increasingly in financing public investment projects, the banks will have to provide the financing to the private sector. Government is not able to take as much external credit as we could.
Also coming up, government advised to harness lithium discovery appropriately to attract FDIs.
A number of things need to be in place, an enabling policy environment that is balanced between the opportunities of bringing in foreign investment, but also I think looking at the opportunity to create jobs, to leverage the whole value chain for Ghanaian businesses.
My name is Darryl Kwao. Details coming up. Don't go anywhere. And thanks for staying with us, everyone. First up, Minister of Finance Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam has given indication that the mid-year budget review will focus on measures that will promote growth of the economy and tighten expenditure. He's calling for support from commercial banks and financial sector players as part of a stakeholder engagement on the budget review. Speaking to Joy Business after the short engagement with industry players, Mr. Adam said a few measures for economic growth will be announced and therefore needs the buy-in of banks.
Banks, as you know, they are very critical to the economy, and in a serious government, we want to rally the support of the banks, especially at this stage in our economic development. You know that macro stability is returning to the economy. We've concluded our debt restructuring. Going forward, we want to focus on growth, because when you are doing fiscal consolidation, as we are doing under the IMF program, growth suffers. And when you also do debt restructuring, the history has shown that countries that have done their restructuring have not exceeded a growth of 1%. And therefore, having done the two, fiscal consolidation and also their restructuring, we need to be intentional about growth. And therefore, the role of the banks are very critical in this respect. One of the measures we want to accelerate is our PPP arrangement, so that we can get the private sector participating increasingly in financing public investment projects. The banks will have to provide the financing to the private sector. Government is not able to take as much external credit as we could because we want to achieve our debt sustainability levels. And so the banks will have to come in and play that critical role of providing financing to the private sector. And this is one of the major reasons we are meeting with the banks. And so we expect the mid-year budget review to announce a few measures on how we can promote economic growth and to get the banks to appreciate where we are going and to be aligned with our expectations is really important, because they will help in financing the private sector participation to enable us achieve accelerated growth rate for the development of our country.
Now, the Ghana Statistical Service and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, have signed an MOU to conduct the 2025 Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey. According to the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kwabena, this research will aid in decision-making to improve general well-being of the populace.
The 2025 MICS will provide data on a wide range of topics, including child protection, food insecurity experiences, clean force, and technology. The survey will also provide data on 267 indicators, including 33 indicators for the Sustainable Development Goals and data for decision-making and for monitoring progress towards achieving other national and international development agendas and policy targets. Professor Samuel Kwabena is the government statistician.
What I mean by preparedness, operational sides of things includes issues of what should be the scope of the issues that we want to investigate. We've broadly given you some indicators. As was rightly indicated, we're going to set up a steering committee, set up a technical committee, and then finally agree on the scope of issues that would go into that. That would have implications on the budget that we need to undertake this exercise. Jointly, once we've agreed on the scope and agreed on the tentative or indicative budget, then we have a resource mobilization strategies. Both institutions have been thinking about this for some time now. We have a sense of what our limits are, but as to whether they will match the scope of the work is something that this MOU would allow us to do.
Representative Officer of UNICEF, Mr. Fiakra Makase, called on government to support the collaboration in order to achieve the desired result.
Since 1995, the Ghana Statistical Service and UNICEF have jointly conducted 4 cycles of the mix. The data from these previous cycles have informed several critical analyses, such as the Ghana's multi-dimensional child poverty analysis, secondary analyses across education, health and nutrition and child protection sectors, several sectoral strategies, and of course the medium-term national development policy framework. Having completed these cycles together, the GSS and UNICEF teams in Ghana are equipped with expert knowledge and experience to ensure seamless survey execution. With this MOU, we trust that our experience will continue to be collaborative and involve a wide range of partners across government, the diplomatic corps, the United Nations, civil society, academia, and local communities. Indeed, UNICEF calls for the broad participation from the Government of Ghana and contributions from development partners who have already demonstrated valuable commitments to mix across the world.
The MOU covers a 3-year period that includes preparatory activities, data collection, data analysis, and dissemination of findings.
Now, the UN Resident Coordinator for Ghana, Charles Abani, has advised government to harness its lithium discovery appropriately to attract the right investments in the e-mobility space. He says that although there is a lack of abundant infrastructure for electric vehicles for the country's e-mobility implementation, there exists numerous opportunities for investments. He spoke to Joy Business.
The ERA E-Mobility Conference is an energy transition-driven conference dedicated to maximizing business collaboration for economic development in Africa. UN Resident Coordinator for Ghana, Charles Abani, advised government to harness earth lithium discovery appropriately to attract the right investment in the e-mobility space.
EV e-transportation conference is a really important opportunity for Ghana. And the first point I've made is that actually Ghana is not transitioning from a carbon-heavy energy environment. It's actually growing into what we hope will be a clean and green economy. And e-transportation offers a great opportunity and is indeed a part of Ghana's own energy transition plan to get to net zero by 2060. So I think this is really important. In order to achieve this, a number of things need to be in place. An enabling policy environment that is balanced between the opportunities of bringing in foreign investment, but also I think looking at the opportunity to create jobs, to leverage the whole value chain for Ghanaian businesses, and to also harness the innovation that is coming from within Ghana.
Ghana's energy transition model for achieving a net zero target in 2070 is estimated at a cost of $562 billion.
Now, the director of National Nuclear Research Institute at the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, Dr. Samuel Ganyaglo, has lamented the lack of investment in the institute, saying that is hampering effective research. Speaking at the commissioning of the GCMS equipment sponsored by the National Petroleum Authority, Dr. Ganyaglo revealed that one of the key centers responsible for researching into biological contaminants is the least resourced, calling for urgent intervention. The National Nuclear Research Institute of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission was established in 1963 by Act 204. The institute is responsible for the operation of all nuclear facilities in Ghana. Dr. Samuel Ganyaglo outlined the benefits of the gas chromatography and mass spectrometry equipment to the Environmental Resources Research Center.
The major problem confronting our research activities is inadequate resources. The Environmental Resources Research Center is the least resource center in the institute. They are responsible for combating organic contaminants in biological samples, comprising human blood, urine, women breast milk, environmental The bedrock equipment required for this determination is to ensure human safety and the safety of our environment is the gas chromatographic mass equipment, GCMS.
The Chief Executive of the National Petroleum Authority, Mustafa Abdul Hamid, emphasized that the partnership between the NPA and the National Nuclear Research Institute is essential.
Well, it's not even as if a collaboration between NPA and the National Nuclear Research Institute is a choice that we have to make. I mean, to the extent that we deal with chemicals, we deal with petrochemicals and so on, and to the extent that they are a foremost research institution also dealing with chemicals and petrochemical products and so on and so on, that collaboration becomes like a necessity.
Additionally, the director of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, Professor Samuel Boachi Dampare, outlined the benefits of the new machine to the institute.
Where the machine is being hosted is one of the centers, and the work that they are doing, we realized that the machine that they were using previously had broken down, so it means that they didn't have anything to work with. So this one, the equipment that we have now, is really timely, and it can do so many things. You know, we're using it to analyze environmental and human samples. For example, the most important is that we can use it for, when we are talking about organic residues, or organic contaminants. It may be blood, breast milk, soil, water, and then petrochemicals. So once that we have this equipment, it means that our research will have something to work with.
The GCMS equipment is generally used to analyze small, relatively non-polar compounds and is widely utilized in fields such as forensics, food safety, environmental monitoring, and petrochemicals, amongst others. All right, you're watching The Marketplace. Time to mix some business with politics. And top on the agenda is the mid-year budget review. And as we have been reporting today, the stakeholder engagements have begun already into the mid-year budget. And we heard from the finance minister, who has been talking about the need to, the focus, which would be to promote growth and tighten expenditure. Joining us on Zoom is Executive Director of the Policy Initiative for Economic Development, Dr. Daniel Amate Enim. Good afternoon to you. So stakeholder engagements for the mid-year budget review have begun. As indicated, the finance minister says the focus will be on growth and measures to tighten expenditure. Is the government on track?
Yeah, thank you very much. Even before we talk about growth, I think there is a need for the minister to talk about stability. The macroeconomic environment is not yet stable as expected. Okay, it's still fragile in terms of the expected stability that is required to trigger growth. Okay, as much as inflation, reduced marginally for the month of June from 23.1 to 22.8 that we experienced. Now you see, the issue of the exchange rate is still high. As much as we have received the tranche from the IMF, we are not too sure whether that will be able to address that situation. So the overall macroeconomic environment is not as stable as expected. One would have expected a policy that will ensure stability. Then we can now propel growth. Okay, because before you propel growth, there's a need for stability. So I would have expected the Honorable Minister to equally focus on consolidating the progress in terms of our recovery post-COVID and sustaining and stabilizing the macroeconomic environment to be able to propel growth. As it stands now, the cost of capital is still high. The cost of living is still high. Inflation, yes, even though 22.8 as at June, quite high. And there's a need for policies to be realigned to further curtail its increases. So to me, these are some of the things that ought to be looked at before we actually zoom for growth. But growth is very important. But the point I'm making is that before you get to growth, there's a need for you to stabilize your macroeconomic environment.
So the finance minister is asking for the buy-in of financial sector players. Any idea what they may have up their sleeve that would need the buy-in of banks and other financial institutions?
Yes, I think the financial institutions, they play a very critical role in overall growth of the economy because they mobilize excess liquidity for onward lending to businesses, even as well as government. So anytime they are performing that particular function very well, it stimulates economic growth. So their involvement is very key. But one of the things that ought to be addressed, as far as the financial institution is concerned, has to do with the cost of capital. That's cost of lending. The cost of lending averagely 30% thereabout is still very high for a businessman that is producing similar goods and receiving competition from Thailand, China, etc. That is it. But as it stands, it appears that the bank's ability to mobilize so much excess liquidity to be able to lend is largely also dependent on the macroeconomic environment. That's where I started from, the macroeconomic stability, where inflation cannot be predicted. Of course, you don't expect them to give rate that at the end of the day they will not be able to meet investments from their investors. So they play a very critical role, but the overall performance of the macroeconomic environment will allow them to be able to perform that function very well by supporting businesses and individuals as well as to stimulate overall economic growth.
And there's been plenty talk about taxes. Seeing it is an election year, do you think the government may succumb to pressure to review some tax policies, also bearing in mind that the IMF would be watching?
It's a very dicey situation. It will be economic scenario against political expediency. But the point is that we need resources to be able to drive development policies applied by the government over the period. And it appears domestically we're struggling with the revenue mobilization. So to me, any attempt to remove taxes just to appease citizens for them by virtue of any political power may be fatal, just like you rightly indicated. IMF is watching. But if the tax removal or reduction in taxes is to support industry to be able to beef up production and support overall growth of the economy, if that is the justification, or of course, I'm of the view that as much as IMF will not be too happy, but they will agree because it's within the medium to long-term perspective to support growth. My view, when they come to taxes, that you don't just remove taxes for the sake of removing taxes. It must be sector specific, and it must be for a particular purpose or essence to be able to drive growth. And if that is done, maybe, for example, if government realize that, look, we need to encourage how do you call it, consumption of local rice, and so you are giving incentives to players in that particular sector to be able to produce rice at a competitive prices. Well, of course, it's a very good initiative because overall it's going to stimulate the economic growth, create jobs, and minimize importation of foreign rice, which will help your city to stabilize. So these are the rationale that ought to go into it. But if it is for the purposes of appeasing the citizens and winning the political power, then that would be very fatal.
All right, another quick political headline is the minorities plan to stage a demonstration. That will be the second one against the Bank of Ghana over claims of wasteful expenditure. Do you think this is leading anywhere, or is just politics at play?
In fact, when it comes to, let me admit, as much as it is the democratic right or constitutional right of any citizen to demonstrate against displeasure of any government or administrative body established under the law, it is also very important that in doing so, we need to reconsider the strategic role that the BOG plays in an economy. This is an institution that, regardless of whoever comes to power, will have to work with that institution. And it's a very sensitive institution because of the role that it plays, both domestically and internationally. And my view is that any displeasure from the minority, they should find a way of judge with the BOG, probably having a meeting with them to understand why they're behaving in that particular manner, and then put up an alternative way of managing the situation better. Repeated demonstration, my view, is that it will dent the reputation of BOG. Tomorrow, if NDC wins power, it's going to work with the institution. And as I indicated, Bank of Ghana is a very critical institution, both domestically and international. So as much as I agree that demonstration is part of our democratic way of demanding accountability from state institutions, when it comes to Bank of Ghana, a caution, we need to tread cautiously because it's very important for the growth of the economy.
Well, final question. The central bank it has responded to this claim that it wasted monies. It says it didn't do that. In question, though, is the new building that the central bank, for instance, is trying to put up. People saying, well, it's needless at this time, especially when you are incurring losses. You think the central bank has questions to answer, really?
I think I responded to this particular recall very well. If not on your platform, then maybe one of the international platforms. My view still holds is that This is a strategic national asset. You know, putting up a new edifice is a national asset. I have been to Bank of Ghana, and even recently I've been there. And then those who know them very well, you realize that the place is not fit for its purpose. Directly behind Bank of Ghana, we have people cooking and selling, setting out fire and these things. So it is not even wise, you know, them being there. The issue, which I may agree with minority, is maybe probably the value, if maybe in their expectation, and there's an evidence to prove that, of course, this same project could have been done with an S amount of money than what Bank of Ghana is using, then that may be a justification. But the justification that Bank of Ghana is putting up a new building and that is wrong, I respectfully disagree with that view. I have been to an opportunity of being to nations that their airport is 10 times bigger than Ghana. They are putting up a new one, and you ask them and they'll tell you it's for a strategic reason, it's for the future, and it is to adapt to their overall infrastructure and the edifice. So to me, any building that will adapt to our infrastructure base and also rightfully position the brand as Bank of Ghana is a step in the right direction, provided that value is an appreciable value that is being spent. You know, so that has been my view. That has been my view.
Lamate Nim, Executive Director, Policy Initiative for Economic Development. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, Yango Delivery is committed to continuing to support small and medium enterprises to upscale and create opportunities for more youth across the country. Country Manager for Yango Delivery, Emmanuel Kudia, gave the assurance after a Courier Day event held to reward some partners for their dedicated services in the delivery business. Here's more.
Ghana's burden delivery and courier industry is being transformed with the entry of mobile applications and modern technology to enhance their services. According to Yango Delivery, many of the country's small and medium enterprises now have access to reliable delivery platform, which helps in reaching out to customers timely. Speaking to journalists after rewarding some courier partners in the Win a Bike competition, General Manager for Yango Delivery, Emmanuel Kudia, said the company is on the course to continue supporting business growth.
You know, we have supported and we keep on supporting the growth of small businesses in Ghana. We know that the major headache of many small businesses is having access to a reliable delivery, a reliable delivery platform, and we've been able, to do that. So this has allowed them to scale and expand and reach many more customers than they used to.
The Win a Bike competition ended with awards to some two committed, hard-working courier partners in Accra. They have been sharing their experiences with Joy Business.
We are all potential winners. So what I will encourage you to do is to be on Yango on your full-time daily basis, not like you are switching to other apps. You work on Yango and then you will enjoy it.
The event was complemented with the safety training from the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service.
And that's the marketplace, everyone. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. We'll be back same time tomorrow.